So even they didn't cause, even they didn't cause the stillbirth, but maybe they will cause the low motivation or low motivation of the piglets. So maybe they cannot get they cannot suckling the milk as well. We also know that the farrowing will increase the stillbirth, as we mentioned before. So the much more fiber is much more important things. But why the sow before during the transition period they have the less fiber? Because from the orange one, we can focus on the orange one first. From the orange one, they always say we cannot provide too many high feeding tank during the transition period, because this kind of the low feeding tank, because if too high feeding tank, we all have the poor mammary gland development, and also we have the insufficient colostrum and the milk production, lower pig survival rate, and also development. But if we have this kind of the low feeding tank, but the farmers are really bright. They will think, oh, it's okay, I just feed them less, but I increase the energy. But if you only increase the energy, so means the feed formula, that the feed ingredient, you want less of the fiber, less of the vitamin and minerals, less of the protein, everything. If you only increase the feed, the energy is not enough for the transition period. So right now that the other research also mentioned that in this time, actually we have to increase our feed intake, or we can say that we can supply the optimal feed intake for the sows, because then we can see that at least they have the up to 7% of the fiber, so they can exhibit the higher arterial glucose and also shorter the farrowing duration, lower the odds of the farrowing assistance or the experiencing the stillbirth. So the piglet and the sow, they are reduced. They can both of them can reduce the oxidative stress. We can see from this one. When the sow, they have a higher blood colostrum. They have higher concentration of the colostrum in the blood. So we can see that the last meal, when they have the last meal, just a few hours before, we can say 2 to 4 hours before, so they will have the shorter farrowing duration. So this is one of the benefits on the increase of the feeding tank to increase the colostrum, and also this kind of the increase the colostrum, we can see from here. When they have the higher colostrum, so the piglet, they will just get higher colostrum also, and also the farrowing duration will be much shorter, and also the other things that the piglet will get much more glucose when they are still not farrowing yet. So they are much more healthy. And also here is the thing. This thing is what we usually mention in the early gestation stage. But this kind of the mechanism also can use in this kind of the transition period. Because of usually we say when we have the higher feeding tank, we will increase the glucose and insulin, these kind of things. So they will reduce the progesterone in the circulation by increase the hepatic clearance. So when the clearance rate of the P4, the progesterone is increased. So they will just when they decrease the progesterone, that will increase the protective procedures. So it's quite easy to adjust. We can also use the feed a little bit, just not totally make them fasting. So maybe we also can help the reduction of the progesterone during the transition period. And also that fiber that we already mentioned so many times, right? Because they can ferment as a short-chain fatty acid, especially this kind of the butyrate that we just, and also have the others, but the butyrate is mostly working on the intestine. And also if we provide the cellulose, when we provide the cellulose, they can have the greater colostrum production. And this one also have when they are saying also that when we are increase the fiber, they will also increase the prolactin. So the prolactin also can increase the colostrum production in the future. So this is from the glucose part. When the piglets or the sow, they got a higher glucose in the blood. So the higher concentration of the glucose, we can see that the placenta mass will increase, and also they will just increase in the capacity of the transport of the glucose. But the other thing is that if your cell, if the cell under the heat stress, so both of them, they cannot really tolerate this kind of the high stress, so this kind of the glucose extraction will be decreased, or even O2. So they will have much higher chance to get the hypoxia of the piglets. So this is the mechanism for the placenta that we have to know. What's the importance of the placenta? We know that especially the NO is quite the nitric oxide is quite important from the arginine, and also the maternal blood glucose level, and also calcium level, magnesium level, and also the other things that quite can improve the transport from the maternal to the fetals. And the other things that after we preferring, we are goes to farming, right? When the cells are onset, we have to know that they will start to contraction. So in this kind of the contraction also cannot be too strong, because the contraction they will just too strong contraction. Contraction will wrap the umbilical cord and also will increase the oxidative stress. And the photo shows here is the left one is the surface of the first parity cells, and next one, the right one is the surface of the multiparous cells. We can see that the multiparous cells there have much more longer and much more cushion for the piglets. So this is also the big difference between the parity 1 cells and also multiparous cells. Especially the parity 1 cells, they are still growing by themselves. They still need to grow up. So the multiparous cells usually they will have a much better structure of the birth cervix compared with the gilt. Okay. So when the litter size, actually the litter size is not the most important things to influence on the dystocia. Usually it's heavy and overstrength of the uterus, like you have too many babies. Or on the other way, if you have too less babies, so every baby will just getting very big body weight. So both of them will overstrength of the uterus, and also the hormone disturbance will happen in the cell. So the other things that everyone maybe still remember, I always focus on the hypoxia of the piglet. The left side is the hypoxia of the piglet's lungs. So we can see the lung is quite a contraction and a swelling compared with the normal one. So we can know that when this kind of the piglet, they have the hypoxia, so they also have the problem, the symptom of the hypoglycemic, less alert, and also they won't not easy to mention that the cell is ready to stand up or ready to lie down in a very quick way. So they cannot escape. So they are easy to crush by the cells. So what can we do for the intervention? Usually we will use the oxytocin as to prevent the oxytocin, right? We can know that if we use too high dosage of the oxytocin, they will increase the stillbirth piglets because they will rotten the umbilical cord, and also they will have the greater meconium scoring. So we cannot provide too many oxytocin also, just small dose. So what's the meconium standing that we just mentioned? We can see from the A to D. The A is the most normal one. That means the piglet is birthed in the correct time. But if the piglet in the cervix too long, so their umbilical cord will be just ruptured. So the rupture of the umbilical cord will have the feces, right? So they will have this kind of the standing on it. So this is also a kind of the indicator to check that your piglet already during too longer oxidative stress. And how can we improve? How can we make this kind of things getting less? We can use the Mg, and also we can use the calcium. But both of them that we just mentioned the NG first because the NG they can dilate the uterine arterioles, so they are easy to just push out. And also we can see from this paper they use the calcium. The calcium can help for the contraction. So we can see that if in the working time, in the working hours, it doesn't matter because worker will help for the assistance for deliver. But if not under the working time, we can see that they have a big significant difference between the control and the calcium. So this means if your worker, the worker like or the farmer that we cannot deliver in the directly, so we still need the calcium to help them to contraction in this kind of a situation. So we can see from here for the calcium, if the calcium are added in the transition period, so the umbilical cord will not easy to broken in the calcium group, and also will have the less meconium staining score because of the calcium is essential for the contraction. And how can we prevent this kind of things happen? Once again, we need to consider about the fiber because fiber, and also if they have the adequate uptake, and also the protein, and also essential amino acid. And the other thing is also very important that we didn't mention here is the non-essential amino acid like arginine, tryptophan, phenylalanine, like that. So that they will have the higher concentration of the prolactin by the fiber supplementation. And one thing have to be careful that if your feed is not so clean, if they have the mycotoxic, so maybe will also cause the vitamin B group deficiency in the cells. So that will increase the oxidative stress and also the damage of the cell membranes. So that we can see here is the prolactin. The protein concentration are quite different within the gill and the multipolar cells. And we can see that the multipolar cells, they can have much more prolactin rather than the gill. And the other thing is quite important in the farm. Usually we said 24 hours the IgG will still get consumed by the colostrum in the milk. But we can the research also said that first 6 hours from the first giving birth until the last one. From the first giving birth, we have to start to cut for the 6 hours. In these 6 hours, they have the very higher IgG content. But in the 6 hours, it's not easy for the big liter size cells to reach the enough IgG or the colostrum. So because the IgG or the colostrum uptake is quite important, we can see from here. This is a measure from the infrared, and the infrared shows when the piglet they go to suckling the milk, they will get much more higher body temperature. So this means they have a much more future for the development. And also that of the teeth, of course, the teeth, the location of the teeth is also very important in this part. In this part, we cannot. Usually they will choose the shorter one and also long distance between the base on the abdominal line first. And then we can see that we also have to mention that the teeth number. The teeth number, if when you increase the teeth number, it will also increase the unfunctional teeth number also. So we can see here, this is the unfunctional number. We can see that the heritability of the teeth number and also functional number is positive and quite high. But the other thing we have to focus is the non-functional teeth number will also increase when you increase the total teeth number. And here that we can see that the pig and teeth ratio is means if one of the teeth have much more piglet, they will have the lower the intake of the colostrum. It means the ratio between the teeth and the pig number is quite important. And the other thing is that most of the study are just say that maybe fatty acid also have the benefit, right? So we just continuously to see here when we provide the CLA during the lactation stage, that can increase the serum IgG of the piglets. And also the other thing is quite interesting for told me that if we injection the oxytocin after flowering, after all of the flowering, we inject one more oxytocin, that they will increase the linkiness of the membrane-tight junction. And this kind of the membrane-tight junction, they can transport much more IgG. We can check from here first. So the IgG will just pass from the maternal to the mammary gland directly when they are open. So the oxytocin can adjust this kind of things much longer. So maybe the 6 hours can a little bit prolonged by the oxytocin. So maybe your piglet have much more chance to come to the IgG, this kind of the immunoglobulin. So we can see that the manipulate the membrane-tight junction in the late cross-run phase may allow the immunoglobulin concentration to be maintained as a higher level for a longer period. But how longer? Right now they don't have the real study on it, so maybe it's a future study. And the other thing is that the constipation will cause the dysglycia also. So in this kind of situation, maybe we also can supply of the vitamin E and the selenium. Vitamin E is protect the cell membrane outside, and the selenium is protect inside of the cell membrane. So we can see that when we supply the vitamin E and the selenium together, and we can see that the colostrum and the milk, both of them have a higher IgG and also higher performance of the milk. And we can see also from here, it means that this free IgG concentration of the cell will also decrease because the cell is faced to big oxidative stress. Okay, so we know that from all of the review, we know that the prolactin and the progesterone, they are additive to each other, right? When the progesterone goes down, and the prolactin will just increase. And also the other thing is also increased by the oxytocin is the lactose. When they have the higher prolactin and the oxytocin, so the milk, the sow milk will also have a higher lactose concentration. And this is very easy consumption for the piglets as energy resource. So of course, when we are working in a farm, we have to help to get the protein from the piglets. So fiber also can decrease the WEI days, and also to reduce the internal inflammation, and also decrease the oxidative stress. So this kind of things not only because of the fiber, not only because of the vitamin E or selenium. And right now we are much more focused on the vitamin B group, not only the thiamine. All the vitamin group, they are the coenzyme. So they are protect the brain and also the heart tissue and inflammatory damage. We can see that when the cell receive from the thiamine, they can reduce the time of the flowering, and also they have the higher peak bone alive number, and also they have the much more movement capacity of the parameter of the piglets. It means when the cell receive the vitamin B group treatment, they can also have the healthy on the piglets. So as we just mentioned before, because of the vitamin B, they have the coenzyme function in all of the metabolic. So it's very, very important during the transition period. So most of the end, I have to mention that the vitamin A and the vitamin E, and also they can providing the oxidative stress protection. So overall, all of the these kind of things that are figure out that when the cell goes into the flowering, they will decrease the progesterone. And this kind of things we can adjust by the increase the feed intake a little bit. And also once the progesterone decrease, PGF2 alpha, prolactin, and oxytocin will be increased. And these three kind of things increase, we can see that the prolactin will increase the milk production, and also oxytocin will increase the milk lactose, and also mammary gland linkage will also increase. So can increase the IgG much more longer. So maybe we'll have the help of the piglet's health in the future. So the other thing is for the oxidative stress, how can we combat with this one? We can use the fiber and including the probiotic acid and or even an EAA. And here that I forgot to mention the theory. Maybe it's also a good one, and the potential one, and also of the your staff, our staff have to very to detail, and also the oxidant that we can use the antioxidant to use the vitamin B group or vitamin A or even vitamin E or even selenium to decrease this kind of the oxidative stress during the transition period of the cell. So this is my topic today. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. One question, one very quick question. Okay, no questions, then we will finish this presentation. Thank you. Thank you.
As we are a bit late, we will start our ILMI session at 10:35 later, so you just have 4 minutes to grab a coffee, and then the session is in the breakfast room, behind the breakfast room, where the VIP room is. In the ground floor breakfast room, there's a VIP room, but you still have 3 to 4 minutes.